All right. Well, we've talked about prepositions till I'm sure you're tired of hearing about them. But prepositions, remember, show your position in place, in time, or in a relationship. And Monday we talked about independent clauses, and I told you that an independent clause was another word for a complete sentence. It has a subject, has a predicate, and has a complete thought. Subject being the who or what the whole sentence is about, predicate being what the subject is doing, and having a complete thought. I'm going to show you today some sentences. Give me just 1 minute to bring those up. Okay. I'm going to show you today, or I'm sorry, not sentences, but I'm going to show you some words grouped together. My first one is a big wave. See if you can figure out what this fragment is missing. Is it missing the subject or is it missing the predicate? If you said the predicate, you're right. What is the big wave doing? Not a very good sentence, even if it was, right? Not in much detail, but we're missing the predicate here. It's a fragment. It's not a complete thought, not an independent clause. The next one says crawled across the sand. What are we missing here? The subject or the predicate? If you said we're missing the subject, you're right. Crawled across the sand. Now I could put a subject in here and say the baby crawled across the sand. Then that becomes an independent clause. Or I could change the sentence altogether and put the lobster crawled across the sand. Either way, the sentence still needs a subject, being the lobster, and the predicate, what the lobster is doing, crawled. All right, let's look at the next one. 8 hot dogs and chips. Oh, now I'm going to get hungry. What are we missing here, the subject or the predicate? If you said the subject, you are right. We're missing the subject again. So we could say the giant bunny ate hot dogs and chips. Once we add our subject in there, we have a complete thought. We have an independent clause. It can stand all by itself. It's independent. The giant bunny is our subject, and 8 is our predicate, what the giant bunny is doing. All right, now we have our last one, a loud seagull. Okay. The loud seagull, if you said it's missing the predicate, you were right. I'm going to say a loud seagull sang the national anthem. Now we have a predicate part. We have the seagull being our subject, the who or what that's doing the doing in our sentence. We have the sang, which is the predicate, what the seagull is doing. We have a complete sentence or an independent clause. It can stand all by itself. Now, before we added the subject or the predicate to any of these silly sentences, we had a fragment. But we're also going to learn something else that a fragment can be called today. So we know a sentence can be called an independent clause. Now we're going to be learning that a fragment can be called a dependent clause. Okay, so you know I like to have silly ways to remember things. I'm not so sure if this is silly or not, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. When you become independent, you can walk on your own, right? You don't depend on your mom and dad to carry you around anymore. You are independent. You can get yourself from one place to another all on your own. So independent can stand alone, just like you can stand and walk alone without someone carrying you. Now, when you were a baby, you were dependent on your parents to get you from one place to another. Dependent clause is that just like that. So let's talk about independent one more time. Independent clause has a subject, a predicate, and it has a complete thought or can stand alone or all by itself, also known as a complete sentence. But a dependent clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate but can't stand alone. Sometimes you can have both a subject and a predicate, but not be able to stand on your own. And we're going to go over when that happens. Also, a dependent clause does not express a complete thought. So maybe it doesn't have a subject or a predicate. It can or cannot. A dependent clause begins with a joining word. Now, there's lots of different joining words that a dependent clause can start with. It can start with the word although. Although Mrs. Brennan was tired. Do you see how I have Mrs. Brennan and was tired, a subject and a predicate, but I don't tell you the rest of the story. It isn't a complete thought. Because the dog was barking, again, not a complete thought. Because what happened because the dog was barking? Since the yellow eggs spoiled. Until we eat dinner. Well, what happens after dinner? After dinner, do I get a cookie? I need to know the rest of that sentence, right? When we get to grandma's house. Again, we don't have a complete thought here. Or where. We're going to be looking at those in our guided practice today. Okay, so while we're looking at these group of words put together, let's say that, what you're going to be trying to identify is whether or not it's an independent clause. Does it have a subject? Does it have a predicate? Can it stand alone? Or is it a dependent clause? Does it need something more to help it stand? Okay, let's look at this first one. White cliffs are near Cape Blanco Lighthouse. Well, in this one, we have white cliffs as our subject. We have are near, as our verb. And then we have our prepositional phrase, near Cape Blanco lighthouses. So this is a complete or an independent clause or a complete sentence. Even I want to call it a complete sentence, but it is an independent clause. Okay, let's look at our next one. Because the lighthouse is located in Oregon, we have that one word at the beginning that makes us want to know more. Because. Because is that special word that sometimes our dependent clauses start with to let us know it's dependent. We have to know why. Because the lighthouses are located in Oregon, so what? What is the rest of that sentence? It's dependent on more information to stand by itself. So just like you were dependent on your parents to carry you along or to help you stand by holding your fingers, a dependent clause is dependent on more information. It cannot stand alone. All right, let's look at number 3. Where the Oregon coastline is ragged. If you saw, it's got another one of those lookout words where we say why or what. I need more information. Where the Oregon coastline is ragged, what happens? That is a dependent clause. It needs more information in order to be independent. Okay, now I know that this one doesn't give us a whole lot of examples, so we are going to do some more together. And I'm going to, for some reason, my Mimeo, it'll give us light, but it won't share our screen. So we're going to have to use the back of our camera. Okay, I think we've had to do this once before, so it's okay. But I would like to go over a few more examples with you before I just let you out on your own. I know independent clauses were pretty simple, but I want to make sure that you see those lookout words for why we need some more. So let's look at number 1. Number 1 says, because we ate breakfast. Do you notice that the word because lets us know that we need more information? So I'm going to circle that word because. Since it has that word there letting us know it needs more information, we know that this is a DC or a dependent clause. It can't stand on its own. It needs something more in order to be a complete thought or an independent clause. Number 2, we helped Dad wash his car. Do we start with a lookout word here? No, we don't. So let's see if we have a subject and a predicate and if it's a complete thought. We is our subject, helped is our predicate or what we are doing. And Dad washed the car. We do, in fact, have a complete thought. So for that one, I'm going to put I see. It's an independent clause. It can stand all on its own, just like you can now, too. Let's look at number 3. Dad mixed the car cleaner for us. Okay, we don't have a lookout word here. So let's see if we have a subject, a predicate, and a complete thought. Well, Dad is our who or what, and Dad mixing is our predicate, what Dad is doing. Dad mixed the car cleaner for us. Is this a complete thought? Yes, it is. This is an independent clause, and I see. Let's do one more together. Since we started, we've got a lookout word there. Since is our lookout word or our joining word. And when we have a joining or a lookout word like this, we know there has to be something that it joins to. There's nothing that tells us what we did before or when we started. So we need more information there. Again, this is a dependent clause. Dependent because it's dependent on more information. It needs something more in order to stand all by itself. Now, I've completed a chart in your PowerPoint for today. The chart has all the information you need and a couple of examples in there. It also has a list of some of those joining words to be looking for. Joining words, remember, are like because, since, although. They need something joined with the information in order to be independent, just like you do in order to be or just like a baby does in order to be independent. Sorry, you don't need anything extra to be independent now. You can walk on your own. All right, if you have more questions, you can always message me. And I also have a short video after this slide that will show you another way of learning independent and dependent clauses. Your special secret for today is if you are listening to this slide, you do not have to do the write and apply at the end. You can skip the write and apply. All right, I'll talk to you all later. Bye.